Following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drug Store. Joining us on the program, Kevin. And, of course, you brought a guest in, Kev.
I did. I found another one to drag in. So,
Kicking and screaming. Actually,
Yeah.
she beat us here.
She did.
This morning.
Yeah. Well, it's not hard to beat me.
Well, yeah, true. You're semi-retired, kind of, right?
Yeah.
You get to sleep in.
Trying, yeah.
Trying.
Yeah, we have Beth Demke with us this morning. She's the CEO at North Dakota Gateway to Science. I've known Beth for a long time.
Yes.
We go way back, so I thought she'd be a great guest.
You used to be on the board, right?
Yeah, I was a board member for it was close to 20 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And it was right at the beginning.
At the beginning.
Yep.
Yep.
In fact, we had some water damage, and then we were cleaning out some stuff, and I found the little plaque with the carpet switch on it.
Oh, the orange carpet.
The orange
award.
carpet. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
we should talk about that.
Yeah, we were in Gateway Mall, and it had orange carpeting in the little room that we were in. So when we moved out of there, I got an orange carpet award. It was
nice.
It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that would have matched my grandparents' refrigerator.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Yep.
it's probably the
Stove
ugliest
and-
award you could ever receive. I made sure of it.
It really was. But
It was,
I'm proud to have it.
Bright blue plaque with a puce word or plaque on it that said, or all it said was Gateway to Science Orange Carpet Award with a swatch of that ugly orange carpet. And the idea was that
was it shag?
Pretty close.
It was
pretty
close.
And the idea was that you would hang it on your wall, and if someone asked you about it, then you got to tell the story of Gateway to Science
Right.
and how we got started. And that's part of what we wanted to talk about today.
Right.
Because we're celebrating 30 years.
Wow.
We opened in 1994. So, and we could start with the reason why we're Gateway to Science, which is not because we opened at Gateway Mall. And a lot of people think that that's why we were named Gateway to Science. But our founding scientist, Frank Cook, who was a chemistry professor at Bismarck State College, had the idea of a gateway to science. And if you think about an opening, a welcoming place where everyone would think that science is easy to understand and accessible, that was Frank's vision.
Yeah.
So a gateway to science. And then he went to Gateway Mall, and the manager there offered us some free space. It was the old Kinney shoe store with the orange carpet. Still had the K on the wall at the time. And, that was how we began. But even before that, Frank started with National Chemistry Week. He would have his students from the college come to Center Court, and they were expected, each of them planned a hands-on activity, and they would present these activities for families to come in. That was sort of our first prototype.
Well, and think about that back 30 years and previous as he's formulating this idea is percolating in his head. And you take a look at where we are now, and okay, you pop on Saturday morning and there's a science show or there's this, and it's like he was ahead of his time.
Very much so.
Very much so, which kind of brings us full circle because Gateway to Science, national notoriety at this point. The facilities are amazing. The new, we'll talk about that. But Frank was really ahead of his time with his vision.
Yes. And we were the first, still are the only true hands-on science center in the state. So you think back to 1994, there was nothing like this in our entire state. And so for Frank to bring that idea...
STEM was just in the schools.
Yeah, and we didn't call it STEM.
No.
We just called it science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way before his time.
Yeah.
But my first recollection was the Saturday programming, and
Yes.
you would invite people in to present things within the Science Center, not in the court. And Beth asked me as a compounding pharmacist, because we were early in that endeavor, to come in and explain what that was like, bring some of my equipment.
There's science involved with
There's
compounding?
science involved in that. Yep.
Wow.
I remember I brought some capsule machines, and we showed kids how we made capsules.
Making medicine, I think, is what you
Making medicine
called it.
is what we called it. Yep.
Yeah, talked about all the science behind pharmacy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
We got in a little trouble with making with medicine with one of the moms because she was upset that we were teaching kids how to make drugs.
Well, it's not like you were teaching them how to make meth back then.
No. But you know what was interesting? My daughter was actually in that class. She was pretty young. I think she was probably kindergarten or first grade, something like that. And I remember when she was in probably around Easter time, if I was a bunny, I would be she chose a pharmacist.
Wow.
Because of that experience. So even way back then, we were exposing students to possible career options,
Yeah.
and that stuck with her.
So today you think about, the big conversation with CTEs and what that work experience and getting kids engaged and, the recruitment, because you talk to higher ed and they're like, no, we got to talk to kids in middle school, sometimes elementary school. That's where Gateway to Science comes in, because it's here's this taste of the different STEM programs, different parts of academia, science, career paths, potential opportunities. And that's really where kids start to get engaged, is that kindergarten, early elementary, into elementary. People were missing out on how early you had to engage a child.
Right.
Exactly. It's all part of the pathway.
Yes.
It's part of the pathway. And, I've got one of our donors talks about how we get kids excited about sports. And it's really no different when you want to get them excited about STEM. You want a kid to get excited about hockey. When do you put them in their first skates? Do you wait till they're in high school? No. At 2 up to 4, they're in skates. You take them to the local pond.
I have friends in Grand Forks and northern Minnesota that their kids are skating before they could walk.
They're in Pee-wee leagues. You take them to games. You take them to great facilities. You build hockey rinks for these young teams.
You take them to Gateway to Science and teach them how ice is made?
Yeah.
We
Good, yeah.
All of
There's
those
a science
things,
to making ice.
All of those things are important to just introduce those ideas. You can't be what you can't see. And so we do the same thing with kids with STEM. And we're just part of the pathway. We're not going to create scientists completely at the Science Center, but we're part of that pathway. We're going to kind of spark that interest.
So that was my question. It's more about getting the kids at that even kindergarten, young level, to start thinking on their own and asking themselves the right questions, because piquing that curiosity in a child is probably the biggest gift you can give them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also for their parents and caregivers, for them to understand that they don't have to have all the answers, but they can help to create that curiosity and help them to find the answers. There's a difference in saying, oh, I know the answer to all of that, than to say, well, let's find out. Let's discover this together.
Well, my educational experience changed because I remember very cognitively in 6th grade, my school district went from rote to critical thinking and teaching a child how to think and how to find their answers themselves. For me, that was light bulb went on at that point. And my educational path completely changed. And that's what we're seeing with these kids, engaging them at such a young age. We're talking with Beth Demke, CEO of North Dakota Gateway to Science, also Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore, along with Beth Demke, CEO of North Dakota Gateway to Science. We're talking about the early years. And Kev, you were around for a lot of those.
I was. I don't remember when I started.
Because it was so long ago.
Board. Yeah, it was.
Sorry.
It was a long time ago. I don't even remember what year I would have started.
I should have looked it up, but I think it was. Well, we opened in 94. You were on the board at least by 95 or 96.
Yeah, it wasn't long after I did some of the Making Medicine Saturday morning things that I was invited to be on the board. And I was thrilled to do it. It was a very interesting time. We were just talking during the break.
Well, it was new and it's just like, this is really cool for kids.
Yeah, and, Beth and I were just talking during the break how a big focus of the board at that time, and it was a small board, was the outreach. Kids were coming into the Science Center, local kids. We were having Saturday morning programming, but there was a need, and people were reaching out to us from rural communities looking for help with their science that they were presenting in their schools because they really didn't have the tools. And the Science Center got very, very skilled at putting together what we called kits of different types of science presentations, and schools would use those for a week or two within their classroom. Beth was just, and I wasn't even aware of this, how the kits would get to these schools. It's kind of an amazing story.
Yeah, we would ship them certainly sometimes, and the teachers might come and get them, but there were times when we would send them with the football team, or I would know an engineering group that was going to a different community because, we worked with a lot of engineers, and I would just say, do you have anyone going that way? And we'd pop the trunk into their pickup truck or on the bus with the football team, and off it would go, and then the teacher would send it back after a week or two. We had to be creative. You talked about creative thinking and critical thinking. We were doing that way back then too, just to get our things where they needed to go.
So we think today, Gateway to Science across the entire state of North Dakota, around the region, and I talked a little bit about recognition across the entire country with the programming, but out of the gate, was that the thought that we're going to reach out to a lot of these rural communities? Or,
absolutely.
Or did they reach out to you and go, hey, that's really cool, how do we get some of that here?
It kind of both ways, but from the beginning, we knew we would serve the entire state. We knew that because Frank had lots of connections with rural communities through the students that he was serving. So he knew what was coming into the college from those students. He knew that the need was out there in those rural communities.
Well, I don't want to call it a deficit, but he knew the disadvantages,
yes,
from a science perspective that those small districts dealt with.
Yeah, and I would call it a disadvantage. A lot of those rural areas didn't have the equipment. They didn't have the resources that some of the larger districts had, and we really filled the gap, and we continue to do that.
Today, what's that look like?
Well, today it looks like we send STEM zones, we call them. They kind of look like a carnival. It'll be a van. We have 2 vans now, so they go all over the state, and we'll send out. It's called STEM Zone. Looks like a carnival. Lots of different STEM activities that will fill the gym, and they'll have a big event. Sometimes it happens during the school day, and it'll be all the kids in the school. Sometimes it's an evening event, and the parents, we will shut the town down, and everyone comes, whether you've got kids or not, because that's what's going on in the town.
It's kind of like
day.
science on a stick.
Science on a stick. Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I can get into that.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is, there's new things going on, like computer science. We're the only state in the country that requires computer science from kindergarten through, it's basically K through 20. Every grade level is supposed to have computer science. The larger districts are doing a pretty good job of that. The rural districts struggle, so a lot of them are calling on us. We create workshops. We make sure that we're helping those rural school districts. And AI, artificial intelligence, it's a big deal.
Well, and that's changing so fast.
It is.
Which, the school districts take a little bit of time to ramp up to stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that where the nimbleness of Gateway to Science comes in and goes,
we've got that expertise.
Yeah, we can fill gaps.
And we can call on our national partners like AIEDU and Google and there several others, TIES, the Teaching Institute for Excellence in STEM. They've called on us to help. We just did an AI education summit up in Newtown for teachers. We did all kinds of things like that to prepare ourselves so that we can serve that rural community. And that's a big part of what we can do to help serve the rest of the state.
When you're looking at the computer science side of stuff, mm-hmm. and how fast that changes, and especially the AI, which Marlo Anderson and I do the Tech Ranch, and every week we talk about something new and how fast it's moving with AI. Does that put Gateway to Science, because you've stepped into the void, but how cognizant of the fact that it's changing so fast do you have to be? Because that takes a lot of time and effort to be able to step in there for those school districts and for the kids when you've got such a fast-moving technology. What's that look like from a programming perspective?
Well, it is a challenge, but some of that is just that spark of passion that we have within our staff. We've got people that love doing this sort of thing. And so we've got folks that are very, I would say, they've got an expertise in AI. So they stay on top of it, mostly because it's an interest of theirs. We make sure that we've got professional development that continues with that. They keep in touch with our national partners, and they know what's going on. Like you say, it's a fast-moving subject area. So
how important are the national partners? Because again, I brought up the national recognition that Gateway to Science here in Bismarck has, and that's important both directions.
It is, absolutely. Well, and we've been called on by folks like the Franklin Institute. We've been in partnership with them in Philadelphia for many years. They just called on us again to do a completely new program that brings more math into our programs and helps them to develop even what that program is going to look like, because they got a grant. So our reputation precedes us. It's really quite exciting to see that. And a lot of it is because of the team members that we've added that have that passion first and then and expertise second. To me, passion is first. You've got to have an interest in it, and then you continue to build your own knowledge base.
Although I'm still trying to figure out where in the world I will ever use the quadratic equation in my life. But different discussion for a different day. We're talking with Beth Demke, CEO of Gateway to Science, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore on Super Talk 1270.
News Talk Bismarck Mandan. Super Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore, and Beth Demke, CEO of Gateway to Science here in Bismarck, that really pretty new building up on top of the hill, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But we're talking about the outreach, and Kev, you brought up a great point during the break. There's a difference between the outreach around the country and what the mission of Gateway to Science still is right here.
Right.
And it's not just kids.
Yeah. And it's been so long since I've been involved in the board. I'm just asking Beth about...
Well, you're kind of retired now, right?
Yeah. Just asking... And Steve's trying to find me a job.
No, I'm trying to help your wife. That's what I'm doing.
So the outreach that we've discussed, and Van taking stuff and the kits that we originally started to do, but I'm sure there's outreach within the building, programming for somebody like me to come in during the day sometime, or an afternoon or an evening, to learn about something that I may not know about. We look at some of the BSc programming, the culinary classes create some interest for us, and I'm sure that there's outreach programs like that at Gateway to Science. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, of course we do things for the kids from preschool discovery hour all the way to after school clubs and coding clubs and that type of thing. But we're also doing adult programming. We have family events. One of our adult programming pieces that's coming up is wine, art, and AI. We were just talking about AI. And we're actually putting that into a fun program to help explain to people how artificial intelligence can be used in a fun way, but also what is it? And so we're bringing in an artist and using the AI to create art in an evening setting with adults. That's on December 7th.
I don't think AI could even AI, I don't think keep me in the lines. But my wife's come to the wine art things before with her friends, and now layering that AI piece onto that's fascinating.
Well, that's what we thought it might be an interesting combination, because in some cases, people are afraid of artificial intelligence, and I can understand why that might be. But I think anytime you understand things better, it takes away the fear and helps you to know how to deal with different things.
Well, and for a lot of people, I think with AI, they don't know all the applications. And
Right.
the applications are limitless. I mean, I'm thinking back, and we're all a little bit older, and I'm thinking back to when I went through school, because my first introduction to a computer was, hey, we drew this geodesic green line tank on the monitor for making a video game, and that was in 5th grade. And now kids growing up are only going to know computers with AI. That's just part of the fabric now. And what the possibilities are that opens up for that generation coming up, mastering that, to me is just a little exciting to be a kid.
Yeah.
So looking at the program you're talking about with the wine and AI, art,
You had Kev at wine, by the way.
yeah, is there a part of that that's really the introduction to AI as a whole?
Yes.
Because you may have somebody totally novice about it, and
Exactly.
they're just interested in the AI part of it.
So starting with what is AI,
Right.
and now we're gonna show you an one application for it.
Right.
And that's sort of how our adult programming is evolving, is learning about something kind of new and cutting edge and then applying it to something else. But we're also going to do some other fun things like, Legos and just, things that maybe as an adult you don't usually get a chance to just play with.
Yeah.
So, look ahead. We'll be about once a month, we're going to be doing some just plain adult programming.
Well, so anybody interested in the wine one, the wine and art and AI, that's coming up, what, December
7th. You're welcome to sign up.
I'm guessing
it's on
those
our
probably
website.
fill up pretty quick.
Yes.
So what's the website? Just so if anybody's interested.
GatewayToScience.org.
Perfect. Check
Yep.
out the class,
Yeah.
sign up for it.
So what you're telling me is we shouldn't have shipped all our Legos that we had to our grandson. We should have kept them.
Grandsons are well. You should always share with your grandson. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Although if you kept the Legos, then that's an excuse for your grandson to come visit
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
There you go.
And to play with the Legos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, we shipped a large box of Connects and Legos.
Oh,
and-
awesome.
Yeah.
From your childhood? Did you have
No,
this
they
for a
weren't
long time?
mine. They
Probably
were
from your
Your
kids.
They were the kids'.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But, within the building that we have now, we have so many opportunities to be able to do programming. We have a lab named after Frank Cook, which is fabulous. So we can actually do things like dissections, and we can do different types of coding clubs we have going on, and we can do coding for adults as well as kids. One of the things we're finding is that as the parents bring their kids to clubs or camps or different types of programming, they're as curious as the kids are. So we're trying to find ways that we can create these adult programs or family programs that would bring them together to learn.
Has there been a shift, though? Because you and I have talked about the camps in the past. But has there been a shift to, more of the, how do we program something for the entire family so that it can be a family event? Because kids and parents and everybody's so busy, and there's been a little bit of a disconnect. It's like, kids are on technology all the time and parents are busy. And it used to be the dining room table, and it's not anymore.
That's
Getting that family opportunity to do things as a family together. I'm guessing there's a lot of thought process that goes into trying to find that type of programming.
You're absolutely right, Steve. And we try to make sure that when we create those programs, we have multiple ages in mind, because families come together and they have preschool kids, but they might also have older kids. And how do you make sure that all of those ages are kept engaged? And our team is fabulous at finding those types of activities.
It's kind of the reason I asked about the programming and the baseline knowledge. Look at a population like us. Kids are gone; they don't live here. There's a large population of people that are our age who've maybe they don't work anymore. They've lost their focus. They need that they need that intelligent stimulation.
Yes.
And programming for that age group, I think, would be just a fabulous outlet for the aging population. And, we're the city's such a destination point for the retirement age. I think that's just a really, really cool opportunity for people like us.
Yeah. And we also work with some of the assisted living places to do programming like during the daytime for retired folks or people that
and if you think about during the
daytime,
the programming, I mean, that's the sweet spot for somebody in assisted living or some of the nursing home setting or long-term care facilities. That's kind of your downtime unless you got a classroom that's coming in. So you get the kids on the weekend programming, you get the school students coming through during the day occasionally, but there's a lot of downtime at the facility until after school programming kicks in. And so it's you get the kids, you get the families, and then people are busy, and then seniors. It's just now it's all the way.
Yeah.
There's a place for Gateway to Science in everybody's life. I kind of like that.
I agree with you.
We're talking with Kevin Oberland at Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. We're talking with Beth Demke, CEO of Gateway to Science here in Bismarck. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bach along with Kevin Oberland at Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. And we're talking with Beth Demke, CEO at North Dakota Gateway to Science. I want to talk about the new building because if anybody has not been through that yet, unbelievable space, especially coming from where you were, which you were bursting at the seams.
We were.
To now having room. So it takes a little while. You've been in the building for a little bit now, a couple of years. It takes a while to kind of work out the logistics of a new facility and get comfortable, get settled. And what's that been like?
Well, it's been awesome, honestly. It's a little challenging occasionally just to get settled and figure out where everything needs to be. And we had never run a building before. We'd always rented. So, understanding just how the process of the building works. But
how long did it take you to not get lost looking for your office?
Oh, I knew exactly where my office was. What's funny, Steve? We have a gorgeous view. If you haven't been there, as Steve said, you need to come. It's awesome.
One of the top 3 views in Bismarck.
I would say it's the top view in Bismarck. I'm just going to argue with you about that.
BSC will argue with you, and you, Mary, will argue with you. But
they can
I'll
argue all they want. But people would say to me, "Of course, your office will get the view." Well, no, my office is at the back of the building. The view is for the public. This is a public facility.
Well, it's actually the front of the building.
The front of the building.
The back of the building.
Yes, the back of the building gets the view.
Yeah.
But my office is easy to find. But
great view of the parking lot.
Great view of the driveway. But I'm not in my office much unless I'm working on something, But what's really important is that we're there for the public, we're there for the families, and we're there a lot. We're open 6 days a week, and weekends we're open late on Thursdays now, early on Wednesdays. It's important that we're there so that families can explore together. And we've learned an awful lot about how that building operates, and it's a fabulous facility. It has served us very well in the fact that we can host so many things at the same time. We'll have meetings going on for different groups. We've hosted weddings there. We've hosted graduation parties, science fairs, robotic tournaments. Our own fundraiser is coming up in two days. Einstein on Wine is on Friday night. There's all kinds of things that can happen in that building while at the same time teaching science and teaching all kinds of STEM and having our exhibits going. And it's a really awesome facility. And in the future, and we're already looking ahead, we're building outside. We've got an outdoor, we call it Outdoor Explorium. It started out calling it an outdoor classroom, but it's really not a classroom in that sense. There's a greenhouse and a shed and then some pathways. There will be a mini excavator that Bobcat is retrofitting for us, where kids are going to actually get to to dig in a gravel pit, and it's completely handicap accessible, so someone can even roll up with a wheelchair and operate this thing. It's going to be awesome. That'll open next spring. So that's in the works. You can see the greenhouse and the shed now. And then we're already talking about expanding the building, because while it's serving us well, we're still growing. We're serving 100,000 people in there every year.
And technology moving forward with robotics and everything, which brings up a great point. I mean, because you guys are on basically the edge of the BSC campus. Partnership with them, because they've got some great new facilities coming with drones and robotics and AI and stuff. I mean, that's going to be a really good partnership going forward.
We've always had a fabulous partnership with BSC, and that dates back to when Frank started. But yes, all of those things are wonderful for us and for their students, and to be able to bring younger students onto that campus and introduce them to some of those activities and technologies early on, and say, oh, and by the way, just down the road, there's a facility that you could attend when you're older, is awesome.
Cool stuff,
Yes.
Kev.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool. It's been way too long for me. It's been so long since I've been involved. I've learned a lot this morning. So this has been a real pleasure.
Well, and this is the first time I've heard about, okay, we're already growing out of the big, beautiful new building, and we're thinking about expanding. But that just shows the engagement, not only of the community, but around the state and around the region and nationwide. And it shows the need in education for programs like this and facilities like this.
But it shows the foresight of people like Frank, the vision that he had and where it's come. I think it's just an amazing thing for our community and our state, and it is really a state facility.
It is. Frank had an awesome vision that was the seed, and every person, every team member that we added, and you're one of those people, Kevin, grew that vision. Frank started it, but then we just continued to add to it. So that's why we are where we are now, and where we'll continue to grow, is because of the seed of that vision, but also because of the addition of everybody else that added to it. Everyone that walks in that door, everyone that we serve around the state, those on the board, and your help too, Steve, to help us to spread the word about that vision, because it's an important thing that we're doing here.
My question is, are there any rooms with orange carpeting?
I don't think there's orange in that building anywhere.
If there's an expansion any time in the future, there's got to be one room with orange carpeting.
With orange carpet.
Or at least a corner.
A little corner, man, a little kids area or something with orange. Okay, so future's looking great. Programming is great. You got a lot of things for kids, families. Of course, we'll have you on later in the spring when we talk about the camps that are coming up, because the summer programming is absolutely phenomenal. There are so many other things out there. You've got your fundraiser coming up. You've got different programs, the wine for adults with the art and the AI, different kids programs, weekend, Saturday programming, opportunities for outreach and kids. There's so much going on. Website, because that is the best place to find out what is going on at Gateway to Science.
Gatewaytoscience.org. And then, of course, you can follow us on our social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Twitter, all of those places as well.
I still got to get over and get the full tour. I haven't done
Please,
that. I know.
As I said, I'm there most of the time. So come join me.
Beth Demke, CEO, Gateway to Science. All right, I'll give you. It's the best view in Bismarck, right?
For today, give me that.
Okay, I'll give you that today.
Okay, thank you.
We got great view sheds in Bismarck.
We do.
Well, the argument always is, it's like, what's the best view of Mandan from Bismarck? Gateway to Science. Check out it on the website. Check out the social media. So much going on out there, and it's not just for kids anymore. That's kind of the cool part of where this vision has gone into. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app. Without apology, The Regular Joe Show with Joe Gigante. Weekday evenings at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, and joining us on the program, Jay Steckler with Essentia Health. Jay, thanks for coming in. Wanted to talk a little bit about, well, first your background, and then we're going to talk about vertigo, and that's something that maybe not a lot of people know about until they have to deal with it. Where do you come from, and how did you get into kind of specializing in this line of treatment?
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on the show. I've been a physical therapist now for a little over 20 years, and I've been with Mid Dakota Clinic, now Essentia Health, for about 16 years. And I've had extensive training, graduated from University of North Dakota.
The cool school, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
I went there too.
So graduated from UND, came to Bismarck, got a job with Essentia Health, and been practicing as a physical therapist there. Now for the past 13 to 14 years, I've actually specialized in treatments of vertigo and dizziness type conditions. Been trained quite extensively out of the American Institute of Balance down in Tampa, Florida, and have taken several different courses on it to advance my skills, and taken even advanced courses so I can handle some of the most difficult cases of vertigo as well.
Explain vertigo to our listeners that may not know, because a lot of people aren't really aware of vertigo until they have to deal with it. For those that may not be familiar with the condition, a lot of different causes, a lot of different factors. There's
Right.
different aspects of vertigo. Define vertigo for our listeners.
Okay. Well, vertigo is actually just a symptom. Vertigo is actually the sense of room spinning. Like the room is spinning around you, or you're spinning in the room. It's a sense of spinning. So what causes that symptom? And that's where the root cause is, and that's where we would get down to, getting down to the cause of what's causing the vertigo.
Because that's symptomatic of a lot of
Right.
different people go, oh, well, I got this. Okay, but yeah, that's just a symptom of what's the deeper cause.
Right. And actually, people can actually describe vertigo as not even a room spinning sensation, but just even a general sense of dizziness, a sense of wooziness, a sense of imbalance, unsteadiness, lightheadedness, just a general feeling of like just a constant motion, or like a rocking or a floating sensation even. So I've had a lot of people not describe it as vertigo, but describe it as any one of those.
Or a motion sickness.
Exactly. Right.
And they may be not realizing that there's something that's
something that
bigger
can help
underneath.
them. Right. Yep. And vertigo is one of those conditions that, to feel. Some people describe it as like I went to the emergency room because I felt like I was having a stroke, or there was some severe going on. And then all the diagnostic testing that they do, MRIs, CT scans, heart tests, and everything, don't show anything. Everything comes up negative, and so it leaves them feeling hopeless, like a sense of nothing's going to help. When in fact there is something that can help them get over their symptoms, and that's physical therapy care for the vestibular system.
Root cause. Okay, so a lot of different things come into play. What are some of the typical root causes of the symptom of having vertigo?
Yep. So some of the most common causes of vertigo or troubles with the vestibular system, one can be a head injury. If you have a concussion, or if you not even have a concussion, but if you just fall and bump your head, or if you're in in an auto accident and you get whiplash, that can cause some vertigo symptoms.
Something a little out of whack.
Right, a little out of whack. But the most number one cause of vertigo or dizziness symptoms can't even be explained, because it just comes on in people's lives. The older you get, the more prone or positioned you are to getting vertigo.
Well, and I've talked to some people that have dealt with vertigo, and it comes back to their ear system or hearing or things a little out of whack with that portion of.
That's where the main trouble lies, is in the inner ear. But what actually makes it go into a debilitated state can be caused by a virus, can be caused by, like I mentioned, just an accident,
bad ear infection,
or an injury. Bad ear infection can be caused by allergies. Can be, and like I said, it can just even come out of nowhere.
Well, and Kevin Oberlander and I, Dakota Pharmacy, have him on the program every week, and we talk about how all the systems are interconnected.
Yes, very much so.
And if one little thing way over here is a little out of whack, it can throw something way out of whack way over there on the other side of your body. And that's kind of the way some of the vertigo symptoms work, isn't it?
Absolutely. I was just going to mention some of those things that seem to come out of nowhere can actually be predisposed to heart conditions, diabetes, like I mentioned, allergies. It can be predisposed to a history of migraines. It can be predisposed to a number of different conditions that, like you said, are affected throughout the body, but then end up in the inner ear or causing problems in the inner ear and then causing vertigo symptoms.
So when you're looking at those root causes, and you know, for me, my familiarity, a lot of it's the ear. You mentioned the heart. You mentioned some different conditions like diabetes. And I kind of break it into two different spaces. One is chemical imbalances and one are physical imbalances.
Right.
So you mentioned maybe you bump your head, and that would be the physical aspect of it.
Yep.
The chemical aspect of it would be the diabetes, or I always look at things work best in equilibrium. Things have to be in balance. We have to be in balance. What are some of the other physical versus chemical attributes to vertigo, which of course is a symptom of something else?
Right. So coming back to linking it to like diabetes or like heart conditions, it's not that the condition itself causes the vertigo, but it causes a lack of blood flow to the inner ear, which then breaks down a concentration of the nutrients that are in the inner ear that can lead to a condition that would cause vertigo, if that makes sense. And then also, yes, it can be a physical condition, not just a, like you said, a chemical or biological condition, but it can be a physical condition where you have like a head injury, or not even a head injury, but well, let me give you an example. The most common cause of vertigo is something called positional vertigo, and it's caused by a disruption of the inner ear to where little calcium rocks or little calcium deposits in the inner ear become displaced, and they get into an area where they shouldn't be.
Hold that thought. I want to come back to that a little bit, because I know people have gone to chiropractors or physical therapists for some of that, and I want to get into that a little bit more. We're talking with Jay Steckler. He is a physical therapist with Essentia Health. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bacon along with Jay Steckler. He is a physical therapist with Essentia Health. We're talking about vertigo, and we were talking about some of the ear issues and the calcium. A lot of people may know those as crystals, because I've talked to people that, my chiropractor fixed this, and there are chiropractors that can be trained in some of that, because a lot of with the crystals is, again, things are out of alignment, out of place, and it's kind of a repositioning of those calcium crystals that are in the inner ear that maybe get a little whack. But a lot of times it's, if you're out of adjustment or out of sorts. And again, I'm a big believer in things in equilibrium. Things need to be in balance. Things need to be in alignment in all the body systems. And whether they accidentally stumble on that as a cure, or there can be chiropractors that are trained in that area as well.
Right. Yeah, so chiropractors can be trained in this as well. I don't know of any off the top of my head that are trained in it.
I don't know any in the Bismarck Mandan area for sure. So
because they do more spinal alignments, and so some of the repositioning that we do is not necessarily with the spine. Not that doesn't help, but it's again more the inner ear. So these calcium deposits, they break free in the inner ear, and they're almost free floating, because the inner ear is basically a closed system that has a bunch of fluid in it, and these calcium deposits get into that fluid and they float up into an area to where they shouldn't be, and they get trapped. And so what happens is they cause a major disruption in that equilibrium, or in those signals that come from the inner ear to the brain, and the brain gets mixed signals, and it doesn't know where you're at and what you're doing.
It's kind of like they form a little dam where there shouldn't be a beaver dam.
Yeah, it causes those vertigo symptoms to happen, or that sense of spinning. And so what we do is we discover, okay, which ear is it happening in? Where are these calcium deposits not supposed to be, and where are they at currently? And we do different head repositioning maneuvers to where we tilt and turn your head different ways to get these calcium deposits to come back out and to go back to where they should be.
That seems like such a simple solution for some symptoms, but it's really not. Explain that process, because getting the right diagnosis, go, okay, that's the issue, and finding that there's a long lead up to goes to that's how we need to treat this.
Right. So there are various different areas in the inner ear to where these calcium deposits can be, and they're called semicircular canals. Basically, these are canals that detect motion, detect everything.
The little snails.
Exactly, right. And they detect motion to where they send signals to the brain, telling your brain exactly where you're at, what you're doing. Well, there can be different areas to where these calcium deposits are in or shouldn't be, and then we're trained to discover where they at, so that we know which way to tip and turn your head to get these to come back out to the right place again. And it sounds easy, but it can be complex, because there are multiple different repositioning maneuvers that we can use, and we got to use the right one to get the results that we want.
So what's the diagnostic pathway to go, okay, there's crystals here, because you mentioned there's different positioning movements, but to know which one, how do you get there?
So how we get there is when you're in clinic with us, we'll actually put you into different positions that may cause your dizziness, and that helps us to lead into knowing where these calcium deposits are at. Also, what it does is it creates a symptom called nystagmus. And nystagmus is a involuntary beating of the eyes, or it's like a reflexive motion in the eyes, because the same nerve that runs from the inner ear to the brain also connects to your eye reflexes and helps your eyes stay righted to keep you balanced. Well, when you get mixed signals to the brain, you also get mixed signals to the eye reflexes, and certain eye reflexes will actually point towards a certain area in the inner ear. So the way that your eye is beating, or the way that the nystagmus in your eye is actually going when you're dizzy, tells us exactly where those crystals are at, or where those calcium deposits are at. And so we know which maneuver to use to help get you righted and get you back to feeling good again.
Okay, we covered the ear side of that.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up a great point. Great segue here is going to the eye, because people with different eye conditions can also cause vertigo.
Right. Yeah, so different eye conditions. So we're not talking about like glaucoma or anything like that, macular degeneration, but
a lot of time doesn't it come back to the lymph system and blood flow, and
that more affects
it's more
the health of the inner ear.
Yeah, and
it's more some of the reflexes that come from the eyes. So some of the sensory inputs that come from the eyes actually affect the reflexes in the inner ear. So what one is called your VOR. or your vestibular ocular reflex. And it's basically the reflex that helps athletes run down the field and help them keep their eye on the ball while their body is jostling and while they're running. They can keep a direct focus on that ball and see it clearly because of that VOR reflex. When you have a disruption in the inner ear, that VOR reflex can be disrupted, and it can cause a bunch of problems because it's a reflex that we use even when we're walking down the aisle of a grocery store, and we're trying to find something on the shelves, and we're trying to look at it, and we're walking down, and you're walking back and forth, heads moving back and forth, and it can cause some major dizzy symptoms if that reflex is not intact. And it can cause some of those major vertigo symptoms.
Well, just going back to the athletes for a second, that's why concussions are such a big deal, because you throw all of those systems out of whack. And you mentioned, you could bump your head, and that could cause vertigo symptoms. And that's one of the big symptoms with a lot of people that have concussions.
With concussion, yes. Yep. And so, we actually do concussion management as well.
So when you're looking at the different aspects that can affect somebody's life with vertigo, and I know people that have lived with vertigo for a long time, is it because they haven't found the right treatment path, or is it they just haven't been connected, or are there cases out there that are just at this point unsolvable?
I will say this, that yes, can we solve every case? No, I'm not going to guarantee that. But there are a lot of people out there that feel like they've had vertigo or have had vertigo for years upon years, that they feel like there's no help, or there's no resolution to their symptoms, or there just can't be anything because they can't find any positive tests. They can't find any positive diagnosis. I've had many patients come into my office having vertigo for over 5 years, 10 years, and we've helped them. And we've given them that sense of getting back to normal again. So even cases like that, to where they've had it for 5, 10 years, 15 years, can be helped in just a few treatment sessions to where we get them back to normal.
When we come back, I want to go down a little bit different path, because I want to talk about some of the debilitating aspects of this, and some of the, I don't want to call it misdiagnosis, but again, people have to know to ask the right questions and not settle for things, because we do that. I don't want to go to the doctor, I'm tough. We do that a lot. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Jay Steckler, his physical therapist over Essentia Health. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
The Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, along with Jay Steckler. He's a physical therapist over at Essentia Health. We're talking about vertigo this morning, and I am a big believer of the triad of care. And you need to be your best and your own advocate, because you're the one that goes, something's not right, and go see a physician or a physical therapist, go to your doctor. You know first, and you know yourself, and you need to be your biggest advocate. With vertigo, there's a lot of cases and people that maybe, I just didn't feel right, but I live with it. Or, it's not that big a deal, I don't want to go to the doctor. Or, like you said, you not necessarily the symptoms of, I can't walk, I have zero balance. Maybe it's just slight. Does that happen a lot, where people just like, I'm just going to live with this. It's no big deal. Or they may mention something in passing to their physician, but they're not mentioning the right things. Right. So your physician doesn't have the opportunity to run the right tests or go down the right path. That, I think, is one of the mystiques of vertigo, or the mysteries or the misconceptions when you're talking about vertigo, because people are like, it's not, I just feel a little off. It comes and goes. It's like, I had no big deal.
You're absolutely right, Steve. This happens more than you can imagine. Actually, the studies are showing the number one complaint that people over the age of 60 come into their physician with is dizziness. That's the number one complaint that people complain about. Not that it's the most prominent, but the number of patients that come into their doctor's office will complain of some type of dizziness.
Which always makes me ask, it's like, how many aren't going to their doctor's office
Exactly.
because they've got a little dizziness?
Right.
I mean, that's just a small sample size because, I'll live with it. Especially in the
There's
upper Midwest.
a lot of people that would just feel like they
I'm
can
just
just
a little
live
dizzy,
with it. Right, exactly. But why live with it when it can be corrected?
Right.
So another stat that's been shown.
Would you live with a broken leg?
Right.
No. But in a lot of cases, with vertigo, it can increase over time. So, and we're a little bit of a victim of that because it's like, well, it might start out as something a little bit off, and you don't. Well, I don't want to see my doctor.
So another stat that I can,
and
share.
then it gets worse and worse and worse, but incrementally, and then now you're dealing with something that you would have gone to the doctor if it was that bad to start with.
Right. So another stat I can share that by the time you're 60 years of age, 50% of people will have experienced some kind of dizziness, kind of 50%.
Wow.
Will have experienced some kind of dizziness, some kind of vertigo symptoms already. And that number just goes up as you approach that 60 or 70 years of age. Because
so is vertigo,
again,
and again, vertigo is just a symptom.
Right.
But is vertigo and whatever the root cause of that, something that people as they age really need to be cognizant of? Because we don't hear that come up.
Yep.
I was telling you during the break about my grandmother and she finally found a chiropractor because she'd been to the doctor. I don't want to say misdiagnosed because I'm not sure she gave him the right information, but she was having dizziness, balance issues, the vertigo stuff, and she was just trying to deal with it. Before I'm like, no, you need to go get this taken care of. And she had a chiropractor that was trained that was actually being able to reposition her, and she did that probably once a year, and everything was great.
Yep.
But hers was the calcium crystals. But
so a lot of times
other conditions that present themselves as vertigo symptoms as you age.
So a lot of times it can even be the same condition that we're talking about, but patients don't know how to describe it to their doctors, or like we even said beforehand, they have a bunch of diagnostic workup tests that show that there's nothing going on, or they all come back negative, and so the doctors may not know the specialized route of sending them down to somebody else that can maybe diagnose that. So they just go, well, it's just something I have to live with. Well, no, like you said, the patient should be their own advocate. They know there's something wrong, and know then that there is something that can help you. 90% of vertigo cases or dizziness cases come from the inner ear, and that is what we're trained to alleviate, trained to treat, is inner ear dysfunctions. And so more times than not, there is help for you out there. So like I said, testing may show that there's nothing going on in your brain, or there's nothing going on, with the heart, or there's nothing going on in different areas of the body. And there may not even be any kind of diagnostic test that can show that there's something happening in the inner ear, unless we get into a specialist like us to test those functions of the inner ear and see if there is any of those problems happening there. And where we find those problems, then we can diagnose it and we can get on the right treatment path.
Are there cases where it's, because again, everything's interconnected, and if something is out of whack here, then it can throw something out way over there.
Sure.
Are there cases that are really hard to diagnose because it's a multiple?
Yes.
It's this, but that's causing a little bit of this, which caused a little bit of this, and it's a cumulative effect.
Right.
And now somebody's presenting with symptoms of vertigo.
Right.
That's going to be a hard case.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, 90% come from the inner ear, but that other 10%, it can be coming from heart conditions, to where they have high blood pressure, and they need to be connected with us, connected with their medical physician, connected with their cardiologist, to where we, as a disciplinary team or a medical care team, kind of take care of the patient, because it's coming from the heart. Or it could be diabetic symptoms, could be coming from the neck. to where, they need to work with us and they need to work with their chiropractor for right adjustments or making that neck health feel better, which would then help some of those dizziness symptoms that are coming from the neck area. There can be a number of different things that can bring on dizziness symptoms other than from the inner ear that we would team with other medical professionals to help get you on the right path again.
And we're talking with physical therapist Jay Steckler over at Essentia Health, talking about vertigo this morning. And when we come back from the break, I want to talk about different treatment methods because, again, vertigo is just a symptom, and a lot of people have it. A lot of people live with it. A lot of people shouldn't because there's some treatment paths out there, but you got to know what the root cause is. We're going to talk about that when we come back. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Botkin with Jay Steckler, physical therapist over at Essentia Health. And Jay, we're talking about vertigo, and a lot of people maybe not knowing the right questions to ask when they talk to their physician because they're a little off, something's a little different.
Right.
The diagnosis side of it, you really can't treat the vertigo because there's a lot of different treatment options out there, but you got to get to the root cause first.
Right.
And that kind of starts with you as your own health advocate.
Yes.
Again, I'm a big triad of care guy, and you need to be your best advocate, which a lot of people don't know the right questions to ask. So if you're a little off and it's some balance or dizziness or a little, I almost want to call it a little bit of a malaise or a fog with vertigo that happens to a lot of people. And hey, we're tough. We live with it. But knowing the right questions to ask when you talk to your physician, because you got to give them somewhere to start to going down the right path of trying to get to the root cause of what is ailing you.
Sure.
What are some of the things, symptoms, signs that people need to be aware of so that when they're having that initial conversation with their healthcare provider, they know the right things to say so that you can, because medicine's in a lot of cases tends to be a lot of detective work.
Yes.
And putting your detective on the right path to begin with is vitally important.
Yes.
What are some of the things people should look for? What are some of the right things people should tell their healthcare provider?
It's again, like you said, they need to be their own advocate. They know there's something wrong. They know that there's something going on inside of them that just doesn't feel right.
I just feel a little off.
Right. Some people don't even know how to explain it. And
first of all, drink enough water, hydrate.
That's right. And so they'll go into their medical professional or they'll go into their doctor and they do a battery of tests and everything turns up negative. And so you go down the right. You don't quite feel right
because a lot of people drop it right there.
Right. And so they just go, well, it's
Doctor
either
said
something that'll pass or maybe it's just something in my head. No, it doesn't have to be that. It can be something that doesn't show up on tests. So bring it up to the doctor because
vertigo
trained.
Is so hard to you've got vertigo.
Right. Well,
it's one of those hard ones.
It's one of those general symptoms that people just kind of, I don't want to say brush over, but it's a secondary symptom to where we're gonna take care of more of the important things, the heart issues, the diabetes, and so they're focused on these major health issues that it kind of gets, I don't want to say pushed to the side a little bit, but it kind of gets forgotten about. And so bring it up to a doctor. I go, hey, I heard of physical therapy. Physical therapy can help with some of these general feelings of dizziness or malaise or wooziness, fogginess, spinning type sensations. Can I go see a physical therapist? And they would be absolutely happy to send you. They can write you up a referral there, and we can get you in for an appointment and get you checked out.
With physical therapy, and because physical therapists provide a lot of relief for a lot of different things.
Right.
Does somebody always need a referral to go to a physical therapist?
Typically, there are some insurances out there, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Dakota, Sanford Health. Some of those insurances you don't need a referral, but most insurances you do need a referral. So it's always best to kind of check in with your healthcare provider. If you don't have a primary doctor, you can go into any Today clinic, walk-in clinic. grab a referral that way. It's a real easy process. But
it's been a big
most
change in
insurances-
medicine. It's not
Absolutely.
like your primary doctor, because we're so
Right.
transitive as a society. It's
Yep.
like, hey, walk-in clinic. There
Yep.
you go. I get a lot done there.
Yep. Most insurances, will require that referral, but it's easy to get. You see a healthcare provider, you can grab a referral, and we can get you set up usually fairly quickly.
Okay, we've talked about vertigo and a lot of different root causes of vertigo being a symptom. Give us a positive outcome. Somebody's walked in, they've lived with this, it's been a horrible experience, but, we're tough in the upper Midwest and here in North Dakota, so we kind of stick stuff out. Somebody's walked in and you've changed their life by getting rid of their vertigo.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had numerous cases of this. Like I said, I just saw somebody last week who was dealing with vertigo symptoms, room spinning sensations, had seen their doctor before, really didn't know what was going on, and didn't really go down this option, or maybe the medical doctor didn't know that we treated vertigo, or didn't think of it, but didn't know that there was the option. The person had these spinning sensations or this dizziness for over 5 years, and they came in, and we corrected that within two treatment sessions, and their life is back to normal now. I mean, they feel like they did before the vertigo started. So numerous different success stories like that we've had in our clinic are
And life-changing for a lot of people.
Life-changing, right? Because they can go back to work. The guy had a hobby of working on cars, and he couldn't do that anymore because anytime he laid down to roll underneath the car to work on it, he couldn't do it because he'd get dizziness. He'd get those vertigo symptoms. Now he could because we cleared up that vertigo, and he was so happy to have his hobby back, to have his life back, to where he was just grateful.
Well, and I think of somebody who just something as simple as bending over to wash dishes or
Absolutely.
tie your shoes, and you can't do it.
You can't do it,
You
right?
just
because
can't
you
do
start
it.
spinning.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely debilitating vertigo.
Yep.
A lot going on. If somebody who's got questions, what do our listeners need to know? As far as, okay, I've got some questions. I may have been living with some of this.
Right.
How do they get in contact with your department?
Well, first off, our department is located in Essentia Health. The address is 401 North 9th Street. So it's on the corner of Rosser and 9th Street in Bismarck, just a block north of CHI Hospital. That's where we're located. So if you wanted to come see us, you definitely can come see us. But like I said, you'd probably need a referral beforehand. So contact your medical doctor. If you can't get a hold of your medical doctor or don't have a primary medical doctor, go to a Today clinic, go to a walk-in clinic, grab a referral, and you can definitely come in to see us. Number to get a hold of us is 712-4237. I'll repeat that, 712-4237. That's the number to our department. So if you even just have some general questions, call into our department. Our front desk can patch you back to my line, and I can get back to you with any kind of questions that you may have as to whether we can help you or not.
Website, of course, always a great resource. What's the Essentia website?
So Essentia Health, it's www.essentiahealth.org. You can go on there and find a whole bunch of different resources that Essentia Health provides, but we would be in that as well.
Jay Steckler, physical therapist, talking about vertigo this morning on Super Talk 1270. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.